Tomorrow Nerds, I am Cheyenne, and welcome to the Larp House. This time we are covering the basics of Larp makeup. What a topic. What a rabbit hole we are about to dive into. Wow. This video is going to be a two-parter. This first video is going to be more theory and design, things you need to keep in mind when coming up with a Larp makeup idea or look. The second video is going to be the actual application, some real basics of makeup applications specifically tailored to Larp. Because I realize that while Larp shares a lot in common with things like theater, film, and cosplay, it has its own needs as far as makeup requirements go. It's its own cool little pocket dimension of makeup. And so, the time has come. I am here with a makeup guide just for Larp. I'm going to start by listing the requirements for Larp makeup that I have noticed over the years I've been doing it. The first thing I noticed is that there's usually a long prep time but a shorter application time, meaning that you sometimes have months between events and usually never more than 2 hours at most to apply your makeup. As far as effects makeup goes, 2 hours is a very short time. This kind of changes everything. And unfortunately that makes a lot of YouTube tutorials a little bit less useful than they could be for LARPers. Most makeup artists on YouTube and just in general spend hours and hours applying their makeup, and that's beautiful. Those makeups are works of art. But that won't always work out for LARP. In this regard, LARP makeup is similar to theater makeup in that efficiency is extremely important and you do as much beforehand as you possibly can to minimize the work you need to do on site. The next tenet of LARP makeup is near extreme durability. In LARP, you sweat, you cry, you fake bleed, sometimes it rains and you're fighting and LARPing in all kinds of weather. This is makeup that you really need to be able to pretend to live in. Because of this, I take a lot of cues from the mermaiding community. Professional mermaids, they do their makeup so that it withstands multiple hours of swimming. It's impressive. Even so, waterproof is not always the same as sweatproof, so testing which products works for your skin and your sweat, because we all have slightly different makeups in that regard. Makeups. You're still gonna want to experiment a little bit and see what works for you. Needing this amount of durability also sometimes means things like using a mask instead of prosthetics, or using the good stuff as far as prosthetic glues go. Anchoring everything as much as possible, meaning using stuff like wig grips, Prozade cream, really durable makeup base, and primer. We'll cover all this in the application step. The next tenet of LARP makeup is a solid middle ground realism. LARPers are incredible at playing pretend. It's what we do. It's like a muscle, and boy, do we work it out. After a while, we learn to take cues from somebody's costume and use those cues to fill in the blanks, if there are any, with imagination. You know, we put on our fantasy goggles. The fantasy goggles are really handy. For instance, if somebody wants to play royalty, but they don't have the funds for completely historically accurate royal wear, which is most of us, we put on our little fantasy goggles and it allows us to see jewels instead of sequins, because honestly, everyone should be able to be royalty if they want to. I believe in you. What that means for LARP makeup is that if it's too subtle or too realistic, it might not be picked up on as something that's supposed to inform the character. You also don't want your character makeup to be too unrealistic or face painty, because then it starts to get picked up as your character's makeup rather than your makeup for your character. You know, like when the character that you were makeup to become also wears their own makeup in character. LARP character makeup inception, it's a thing, and it bends my brain, but it's real. You want it to be slightly stylized and dramatic so that people can see you from across a room and know what you're going for. But you also want it to be detailed enough that nobody gets confused about what's your character's makeup and what's your makeup. Basically, use makeup to tell other players what they should be paying attention to. The last tenet of LARP makeup is accessibility/replicability. This varies more from person to person, but on the whole, LARPers are normal people with normal budgets and normal skill. Actually, no, I'm not going to say normal skill levels. My LARP friends are some of the most talented people I've ever met in my entire life, and I'm constantly fangirling over them. There are exceptions, like if a makeup artist knows where to get specialty supplies and how to use them, and you know, there you can watch some tutorials if you want to learn a little more about that. It's fine. Basically, not everyone has makeup training, but we want everyone in LARP to be able to transform into the wonderful fantasy creatures you've always wanted to be, so it's much better if everything is as easy to use as possible, as easy to access as possible, so that everyone can look amazing. This could mean using mostly materials that you can find on places like Amazon, where pretty much anyone can order from, or your local drug or hardware store. It can also mean just using stuff around your house in really creative ways. This could also mean coming up with a step-by-step process, or just using really basic shapes to change the structure of a human face. This is also especially handy for game designers who've written fantasy races into their games. Maybe you could get a makeup artist friend to come up with those step-by-step processes so that everyone can look amazing as the magical fantasy people you've come up with. Now you've got those basic tenets in mind, I'm going to talk about design just so very briefly because it's so subjective. Mostly I would like to tell you how to design rather than what to design. You want to put a little bit of thought into your makeup, even if it's just a face paint job. Even if you literally browse Pinterest for a little bit before the event and just hold some images that inspire you in your mind while you do makeup, it's going to help you so much more than just winging it. And that is true for absolutely everyone, even if you've been through 10 years of expensive art school. Rule number 1 in almost all art is to use as much reference and research as you can. It's not cheating, it's learning. Look at the textures and the flow of shapes that occur in whatever thing is inspiring your makeup, and just emulate that. And that alone can be the difference between what makes a fast makeup look good and effective and what makes a fast makeup look just fast. Doing a couple test runs of your makeup also does wonders for the design and application process on the big day. I had to do Siren makeup 3 separate times in 2 days when I NPC'd College of Wizardry 14, and by the 3rd time doing it, I was down to doing the entire look in about 30 minutes. And from an FX standpoint, 30 minutes, it's fast. And the unicorn makeup for College of Wizardry's Winter Banquet that I did, while it was not nearly as fast to apply, doing multiple test runs really helped me figure out exactly what look I was going for. That weird, alien, ethereal, spooky beauty. And I'm going to leave you with something to help you get started. I have begun to make Pinterest boards for different kinds of character concepts in LARP. I'm doing this partly because the most common question that I get asked is, how would you do makeup for this concept? So, again, ask and you shall receive. So follow LARP House on Pinterest if that's something that interests you, if you want to see how I would approach different character concepts in LARP, because, you know, that's always fun, and I'll be adding to the boards and adding new boards as regularly as I can. And that brings us to the end of part 1 of LARP Makeup 101. Our next video is going to be application, where I cover pretty much the most basic basics that I can think of how to get makeup on your face in a way that's best for LARP. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, emotional outbursts, if you would like to support us in any way, links for all that are going to be in the description of this video. We could not do any part of this without you, so as always, thank you so much for liking us, subscribing to us, and fighting with us. Make Pinterest boards for different types of LARP character content. I'm making spit bubbles. My throat is so froggy. Filmed this the same day that we did the live stream, so my throat and mouth feels like a very old snail at the end of a very long and storied life.